Only 1% of Dark Chosen Ones are born with these 7 shadow powers activated. I want you to look around you. Really look. Not with your eyes, but with your inner senses. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong in the world's noise? That somehow your mind and soul were built for something more ancient, more primal, something hidden beneath the surface of all this modern chaos? If so, you may be one of the Dark Chosen Ones. Not evil, not lost, but forged in the womb of shadow, born with a deeper knowing that the world is built on illusions, and only a few have the power to peel them away. Fewer still are born with the powers already activated. Only 1%. This video, this journey, is not for everyone, but perhaps it's for you. Let me take you back to a night I'll never forget. I was alone in a forgotten cave deep in the Himalayas, the kind of place that doesn't appear on any map. I had gone there to escape the noise, to silence the external world so I could finally hear my soul's whisper. For days, I fasted, meditated, and sat in the cold silence. And on the 7th night, as the fog of my thoughts lifted, something happened. I didn't hear a voice, but I felt a presence, a force, a knowing. It wasn't light, it wasn't darkness in the way we fear it. It was deeper than both, like the source code of reality. That's when I first tasted what I now call the shadow powers.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, most spiritual teachings focus on the light, on love, kindness, surrender, and peace. But the light is only half the truth. The other half, the shadow, is not evil, but it is raw, wild, and untamed. It is the part of you that remembers the things the world made you forget. It is your inner abyss, not filled with demons, but with dormant gods. And only 1% of those born into this world come with these 7 shadow powers already activated. If you're watching this, maybe you're not here by accident. Maybe you've felt them inside you all along. The first shadow power is the power of silent knowing. It's like a voice that speaks only in silence. You don't hear it with your ears. It's like a download, a sudden understanding of what others cannot see. You walk into a room and feel the energy shift before anyone says a word. You sense people's lies, their pain, their true intentions, not because you're psychic, but because your soul is tuned to the undercurrents of reality. Most people drown in surface-level distractions, but you feel truth like a scent in the air. If you've always known things without knowing how you know them, that's your shadow whispering. The second is the power of emotional alchemy. While others are destroyed by their pain, you've always felt something different. Pain doesn't just break you, it transforms you. You've suffered deeply, but instead of becoming bitter, your soul forged itself into something sharper, more refined, more resilient. You become stronger with each wound. You don't run from darkness, you drink it, absorb it, and turn it into clarity. Have you noticed how your most painful moments led to the biggest awakenings? That's not coincidence. That's alchemy. That's shadow magic. The third is the power of the hidden mirror. You reflect to others what they hide from themselves. Without trying, you trigger people not because you're wrong, but because your very presence brings up their unresolved truths. People either hate you or are drawn to you obsessively. There's rarely a middle ground. You've been misunderstood your whole life, not because you're broken, but because you mirror the buried parts of others. You make them see what they're trying to avoid. This is a lonely power, but it is sacred, because only those who have faced their own shadows can hold up that mirror without flinching. The fourth is the power of isolation. You have always walked alone, not by choice, but because your path is different. Others seek belonging, you seek truth. Even when surrounded by people, you feel like you're watching life from a different dimension. It's not that you don't want connection, it's that shallow connection repels you. You crave depth, rawness, realness, and most of the world is terrified of that. But here's the secret. Isolation isn't a punishment. It's preparation. The universe separates you so you can hear yourself, so you can remember, so you can activate what you were born with. Have you ever considered that your loneliness is sacred? The fifth is the power of unyielding vision. You see things not as they are, but as they could be. You look at this broken world and feel a fire inside you, a desire to tear down the illusions and rebuild something pure. You're not interested in surface-level success. You want to create from the soul. You want to build something real. Even if you've been told you're too intense, too ambitious, too much, that's because your vision comes from beyond this world, and that scares people who are still asleep. But for you, the dream is not optional. It's destiny. You must manifest it or die trying. The sixth is the power of controlled chaos. Unlike the average person who fears uncertainty, you thrive in it. While others crumble in crisis, something strange happens to you. You awaken. Your mind sharpens. Your senses heighten. You don't just survive the storm, you become it. This is not recklessness. It's divine adaptability. You were born to lead in collapse, to bring order from disorder, to dance in the flames while others run. And this power, when refined, makes you unstoppable. But first, you must learn to control it. Chaos without mastery is destruction, but chaos with intention, that is how worlds are remade. And finally, the seventh is the power of the sacred rebel. You were born with a belligerent defiance towards systems that feel false. You question everything, from religion to education to politics to even your own beliefs. You are not a follower. You are a system breaker, a disruptor, a code rewriter. And this is perhaps the most dangerous power of all, because it isolates you, marks you, makes you stand out in a world that punishes difference. But it's also the most needed power on Earth right now. The world doesn't need more obedience, it needs you, your truth, your fire, your refusal to pretend. Now, let me ask you something deeper than anything I've said so far. Have you ever wondered why you were born into this body, this life, this moment in time? Why now? Why here? What if I told you that your life has been a training ground? That every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment of isolation was not accidental, but designed to awaken these dormant powers in you? What if the darkness didn't come to destroy you, but to reveal you? And what if, just what if, you've already been using these powers without knowing it? Pause, reflect. Don't just listen, remember. Because the truth isn't something you learn, it's something you wake up to. When you're ready, we'll go deeper. The echoes beneath the light, why most never realize their shadow powers even exist. Have you ever asked yourself why, despite all your potential, your inner strength, your moments of deep clarity, you still find yourself doubting your power? Why you sometimes feel like a ghost in your own life, as if something ancient inside you is calling, but the world is too loud for you to hear it clearly. That's not your imagination, that's the echo beneath the light. Most people will live their entire lives without ever realizing they carry something deeper within them. They will chase light, success, happiness, and clarity, but they won't understand why the emptiness always returns. It's because they've been taught to fear the dark. They've been conditioned to equate light with good and darkness with evil. But that's not the full truth. That's a half-truth, sold to keep people docile, distracted, and spiritually sedated. The real power, that raw, untamed, transformative force, lives in the shadow, and only those brave enough to stop running from themselves ever find it. Why do so few awaken to their shadow powers? Because awakening them requires something most people are terrified to do: face themselves. Not the curated version of themselves they show online, not the role they play at work or at home, but the unfiltered self, the wounded self, the angry self, the wild, primal, questioning self. The self that doesn't always want peace but wants truth. The self that remembers what it's like to be free before the world told them who to be. The self that remembers what it's like to be free before the world told them who to be. You see, the world doesn't want you fully awake. It wants you functional, not fulfilled, productive, not powerful. So it distracts you. It floods you with dopamine hits, social media, shallow entertainment, empty validation. It keeps you busy chasing the light but never questioning its source. And so your shadow powers lie dormant, like a lion in a cage that's been told it's a house cat. But deep down, you've always known, haven't you? There were moments, maybe in childhood, maybe in solitude, maybe during heartbreak, where something shook loose inside you, where you glimpsed your raw essence. Maybe it was in a dream, maybe in a moment of rage, or in the silence after losing everything. That was your shadow rising. That was your soul reminding you, you are more than this. But here's the terrifying part, and the liberating truth. Real power begins where comfort ends. To activate your shadow powers, you must be willing to descend into your fears, into your pain, into your contradictions, into the truth that you are not just light, you are everything. And everything includes the shadow, the unspoken, the suppressed, the rejected, the chaotic. Most people stay asleep because descent feels like death, and in a way it is. It's the death of the mask, the death of the false persona, the death of the normal life. But what rises in its place is something far more real, something ancient, something undeniable, something unstoppable. You become you. So let me ask you something dangerous. What part of yourself have you been running from? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped running? If you sat in the silence long enough, you'd feel it, that pulse beneath your skin, that electricity in your spine, that quiet voice that doesn't beg for attention. It demands remembrance. That is your shadow power, waiting, watching, ready. But it won't activate on its own. You must meet it halfway. You must walk into the cave of your soul and make peace with the monsters you thought lived there, only to discover they were never monsters at all. They were fragments of your power, exiled because the world told you they were too much. You are not too much. You are exactly enough to become who you were always meant to be. When the darkness speaks, initiation into the path of the chosen ones. There comes a moment on the path when silence becomes deafening, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is. You sit in the stillness, and suddenly it feels as if the world is peeling away. What you once believed to be solid begins to dissolve, and in that terrifying, beautiful unraveling, something ancient begins to whisper, not in words, but in symbols, in sensations, in undeniable truth. That is the moment the darkness speaks. That is the beginning of your initiation. The path of the chosen ones is not lit with candles or marked with signs. It is cloaked in mystery, lined with paradox, and guided by intuition rather than instruction. Why? Because this path isn't taught, it's remembered. The truth has always been inside you, but it was buried beneath layers of programming, shame, fear, and false identity. And once the darkness begins to speak, those layers start to burn away, not gently, not politely, but with sacred fury. You have to understand, the darkness does not coddle. It doesn't speak to your ego. It doesn't care about your comfort. It speaks to your essence. It calls to the part of you that was here before your name, your story, your trauma. And when it calls, it doesn't ask permission. It shakes you. It breaks you. There is a reason only 1% are born with their shadow powers already activated. It's not because they are better, it's because they are ready. Their soul chose to come through the fire already lit, already remembering, already burning with hunger for a truth that most people spend lifetimes avoiding. But even for them, the journey is not easy. In fact, it's often harder. Because when your powers are activated early, the world becomes unbearable. You see too much, feel too much, you know things you can't explain, and you walk through life like a storm trapped in human skin. But this is the initiation. The fire's not meant to destroy you, it's meant to purify. The pain is not punishment, it's activation. Every betrayal, every abandonment, every collapse, those are the sacred trials, each one designed to strip away illusion, to test your strength, to see if you're worthy of remembering who you truly are. And those who survive it, not just physically but spiritually, emerge not broken but reborn. Let me tell you something most spiritual teachers won't. The darkness is not separate from the divine, it is divine. It is the womb of creation, the void from which all things emerge, the silence before the sound, the canvas before the color, and when you learn to sit in it, to breathe with it, to listen to it, it will teach you more than 1,000 books ever could. Whatever is your is, it will teach you how to feel again, how to trust yourself, how to walk through a world of illusions and see clearly, not with your eyes, but with your knowing. And that's when the real power begins. Because once you've been initiated by the darkness, you stop looking for approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing to fit into a system that was never built for you. You become sovereign, unshakable. You speak with a voice that carries the weight of 1,000 forgotten lifetimes, and when others hear it, something stirs in them. Even if they don't understand why, that's the ripple of remembrance. That's the beginning of your impact. But the question is, will you listen? Will you answer the call? Because the darkness doesn't force, it waits, patiently, powerfully, until you're ready to step forward, not as a seeker, but as a rememberer, as one who no longer runs from their shadow, but walks with it, hand in hand, into the unknown. And when you do that, you don't just awaken your powers, become the power itself. The unseen crown. What happens when you fully embrace your shadow powers? There comes a point in the journey when you stop chasing transformation and start embodying it. You no longer ask, "When will I awaken?" because you realize you already have. You're not waiting for a sign from the universe, you are the sign. That's when the unseen crown begins to settle on your head. Not made of gold, not visible to the naked eye, but forged of truth, pain, power, and remembrance. This is what happens when you fully embrace your shadow powers. You stop playing small, you stop pretending, you rise, not to dominate others, but to lead yourself. True power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It walks into a room and shifts the frequency. It moves through the world without asking for permission. It sees through lies, cuts through illusion, and stands in full presence. When you walk with your shadow integrated, you become a mirror the world can't ignore. Some will hate you for it. Others will fall in love with you without knowing why. But none will forget you. Because you are no longer a person simply living a life, you are a force living a purpose. And here's the paradox. You don't become someone else. You become fully yourself. The self you were before the world told you who to be, before the guilt, the shame, the masks you were forced to wear just to survive. The shadow doesn't erase your humanity, it illuminates it. It helps you reclaim the pieces you abandoned because they were too much, too intense, too strange. But those pieces, that was your genius. That was your fire. That was your medicine for a world that's starving for authenticity. When your shadow powers are activated, you begin to live in alignment with your original blueprint. You don't just think differently, you move differently. You speak with intention. You cut cords that no longer serve you. You hold boundaries without guilt. You see the hidden games people play, but you no longer participate. You become immune to manipulation because you've already danced with your own demons and you made peace with them. This is the kind of power that cannot be taken from you because it was never given by the world. It came from the source. It came from the descent. It came from the wild nights when you screamed into the void and got no answer, only silence. But now you understand. The silence was the answer. It was the initiation, the test, the sacred space where the old version of you died and the real you was born. You begin to attract differently, not just people, but experiences. You magnetize opportunities that match your frequency. You no longer chase love, success, or meaning. You embody them, and they flow to you, not because you're lucky, but because you've become the version of yourself that's ready to receive. But this path isn't about ego. It's not about superiority. It's about responsibility, because once your powers are activated, the question becomes, what will you do with them? Will you use them to elevate others, to shatter illusions, to help others remember who they are? Because that's the true role of a chosen one. Not to dominate, but to awaken. Not to stand above, but to stand as a lighthouse for those still lost in the fog. And so I leave you with this question, not to answer now, but to carry with you. If the world depended on you fully stepping into your shadow-born power, would you still hesitate? Because the truth is, it does depend on you. You're not here by accident. You were born at this time in this body with these challenges because your soul knew you could handle it, you could transcend it, you could lead through it. The shadow is not your enemy, it is your crown. Wear it, you are the 1%.